Namaste. Welcome to our discussion today on the fascinating and controversial topic of lust at first sight, eros in chains in psychoanalysis. We have with us to discuss the topic psychoanalysis consultant Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Mr. Himanshu Vaidya, can we start with the provocative and controversial topic as it is?
Lust at first sight is far more common than love at first sight. Most of us, however, are not honest about it. That's the literal meaning of that statement. Coming to psychoanalysis uh, grew or started with lust at first sight. When it started analyzing the unconscious sexual impulses, and from there, the discipline of psychoanalysis started. So the origins of psychoanalysis are in lust at first sight. However, psychoanalysis got fixated with this uh, juvenile infatuation of lust at first sight. It could not undertake the mature journey, the journey to maturity of love at second sight. And this erotic tragedy continues till this day.
When you say eros in chains, what do you refer to?
Eros is a large continent where many citizens inhabit that continent. Psychoanalysis is comfortable only with three citizens, namely erotic, romantic love, sexual love, and love between parents and children. Eros, however, has many other manifestations: love for spirituality, enlightenment, ideology, art, compassion, sensitivity. All these are various manifestations of eros. However, psychoanalysis has not adequately used in knowledge or in therapy other aspects of eros, and that is where I feel eros is in chains within psychoanalysis. And this also has social and individual aspects to it as to why eros is in chains in psychoanalysis, which we can discuss subsequently.
So, why do you think such a thing has happened in psychoanalysis?
There are two aspects to it: the historical and social, and second is the individual. Let us start with first the historical and social aspect of the issue, why it has come to be what it is. Every individual lives every moment on the crossroads of two organic roads that cross each other. One organic road is the road of time, of the past, present, and future. And the second road perpendicular to it is the road of relatedness, where a man relates to himself, family, community, humanity, and existence. There is flow on both these roads, and man is always on the crossroads. This is a very natural and organic situation, and it has been so for thousands of years till we have the beginning of the modern age. Modernity, which began about 250 to 350 years back, was something which was very new to human civilization and very new to the human mind and to human society. What modernity did was to isolate the individual who was organically connected to past, present, and future in terms of time and in terms of relatedness to himself, community, family, community, nation and humanity and existence on the other. What modernity did was to isolate this individual, isolate him from these two flows, and create out of individual driven by self-interest, rationality, and isolation. And after creating such an individual, modernity created a society by contractual system between such individuals, and thereby created an order which was extremely efficient, extremely utilitarian, and extremely fast moving. But this order essentially is inorganic, and there is a perpetual fear of breakdown. To avoid this breakdown, modernity used the ecosystem of ideas and institutions and paradigms to maintain the status quo till it could. Today, as modernity draws to a close, it is no longer possible to uh, have that cage around that individual which has existed so successfully for the last 250 years. Psychoanalysis grew up in the context of this modernity, and therefore, growing up within the paradigm of modernity, it could not be free from the paradigm. And therefore, psychoanalysis also went along with modernity in terms of the isolated individual, the utilitarian individual, the rational individual. And one of the things which is most threatening to this status quo, this sort of an engineered optimum of the civilization, is a flow of eros. And therefore, from a social point of view, the effect on psychoanalysis was that this destabilizing eros and much of the positive aspect of eros also started getting linked to archetypes, to mythology, to spirituality, which again was a revolt against modernity. And therefore, because of this social forces of the time, there was a social influence on psychoanalysis to keep eros chained within itself. That was a social and historical element. Coming to the second aspect of the personal element, a theory develops within the mind of the theorist. Now, the theorists in psychoanalysis, most of them came with some personal tragedies. I always say that psychoanalysis is the science of a broken heart. And this was true for most of the theorists who came to psychoanalysis. And therefore, uh, it was easy for them to speculate or theorize on sexuality and aggression, envy and disintegration, but not so easy to theorize on love and relating. And this creates a personal element that those who created psychoanalysis and the theories of psychoanalysis had an internal inhibition on their own eros. And because eros was chained inside of them, it ultimately got chained in the theory of psychoanalysis.
So does it mean that most psychoanalysts have a problem with chained eros for themselves?
Most of them, yeah, most of them historically did have it. And therefore, you will see in exception, Eric Fromm says, uh, cure lies in to love, to be loved, and to be in a state of love. Exceptionally, Freud says psychoanalysis is a cure through love. But those are exceptions. The rule is eros is in chains, and except for a few manifestations of eros, psychoanalysis is not comfortable with all the manifestations of eros, and this has both the individual roots as well as social roots.
Do you feel any course correction happening along the way in this matter in psychoanalysis?
I think yes, because what is happening is outside of psychoanalysis, positive psychology, spiritual healing, uh, healing through Reiki and pranic healing, mindfulness, uh, heartfulness, the fighting of love behind rage in ISTDP, in various disciplines, the higher manifestations of eros are coming out. We are also realizing what I call the super ego strength, the super ego exhilaration. Till now, we have mostly talked about super ego pathology. We did not talk about super ego healing. But super ego is a great strength. Similarly, the positive aspects of eros are a great strength, both to balance the personality in favor of the positive against the negative. Till now, we have been trying to reduce the negative, not directly, trying to increase the strength of the positive in psychoanalysis. And this, I think, people are using more and more holistic methods today, where strengthening of the positive is a central theme in their healing process. And my feeling is that as we go along and the results of this type of integration is more empirically researched, we will see more and more of unchaining of eros within psychoanalysis.
Uh, was eros equally chained in the East also?
It's a very interesting question. I would uh, separate here the regulation of eros and the chaining of eros. Regulation for the sake of avoidance of emotional pain, morality, social order. I think that is a human problem. That is not an Eastern or a Western problem. But chaining of eros is something different from regulation of eros. And chaining of eros, which we find in psychoanalysis, essentially is more of a Western problem. And to some extent, West has exported this problem to those countries which were under the imperial rule. And this is essentially a Western problem. Uh, for this, we have to understand the history of how from Christianity we moved to modernity and how within modernity psychoanalysis came up. So, uh, in Christianity, we had a heavy-handed, brutal repression of sexuality. And uh, we had excessive uh, uh, emphasis on love, forgiveness, charity, compassion, and so on. What happened in modernity was that they said goodbye to many of the not right things in the medieval period, but at the same time, it was also like a reaction formation.
Right.
So, one aspect of modernity also is that in one sense, partial sense, I'm not saying completely, but in a partial sense, in a limited sense, there is an element of reaction formation to medieval Christianity. And what happened there was that within that modernity, when psychoanalysis emerged, uh, it was like a reaction formation to the medieval Christianity where sexuality got uninhibited, whereas those aspects which were uninhibited before got inhibited. So, contrary to popular belief, psychoanalysis actually is a very inhibited discipline and a strangely inhibited discipline. Strangely, because what is inhibited in society is not inhibited in psychoanalysis,
Right.
but a large number of things which are not inhibited in society are inhibited in psychoanalysis. So when we look at this kind of a historical evolution, we realize that uh, in the West, as a reaction to the brutal repression of sexuality and certain aspects of eros because of medieval Catholic Christianity. Psychoanalysis developed this strange inhibition order, should I say, where uh, sexuality was not inhibited, aggression was not inhibited. We encouraged people to feel it, to accept it, and so on. But other aspects of eros, the higher aspects of compassion, love, sensitivity, love for ideologies, love for spirituality, uh, loving devotional way towards self-development, all of those got inhibited secretly. It's a kind of a conscious taboo where you don't say it is repressed, it is out in the open but not developed silently.
Right.
So it's a kind of a very subtle, tacit, conscious taboo. And therefore, in the West, this was the situation. In the East, we had a very different situation where prior to imperial rule, if we look at the East as it was, uh, we see uh, the positive acceptance, integration, and use of all aspects of eros, especially positive aspects of eros, in traditions like what we say the Bhakti Yoga in the East, in traditions like the left hand school of Tantra in the East, in traditions like the heartfulness meditation, and those spiritual schools which proceed from the heart and then move to other centers. All these traditions made very good use of the positive aspect of eros, and positive aspect of eros was also used very liberally for self-development. So did not have in the east of yesteryears, we did not have the repression of eros, the chaining of eros as we found in the West and in psychoanalysis in a unique way. Today, those countries of the East which were under imperial rule may have uh, the repression and inhibition of the sexual aspect of life because of the imperial rule. But East, as it was in yesteryears, we don't find the kind of eros in chains as we find in medieval Christianity or in psychoanalysis.
So, in that context, then how do you feel eros can be unchained and constructively used in the context of holistic healing?
I think we are slowly realizing the power of keeping the heart chakra open, and that has multiple uses. For example, in the Kleinian view, one of the central elements of health is internalization of a good, reliable, stable object. And that is possible when we open up the heart chakra and we unchain the eros in all its forms, not without regulation, for a good purpose, of course, that goes without saying. We have to take that as given. But with those guides, the unchaining of eros is very, very essential. Similarly, when we look at pranic healing and Reiki, and we try to integrate that with psychoanalysis, we realize that in case of fragile patients, where otherwise only supportive therapy is possible, by making use of unchained eros and first focusing on strengthening the positive aspect of personality, often through even behavioral therapy, the person actually becomes ready for psychoanalytic help. Thirdly, for personal well-being, quality of life, and for social well-being, the celebration of eros, the unchaining of eros, celebration of eros, and self-development of individual, and strengthening of positive bonds between people, and instituting altruism and nobility in a more uh, in a larger and in a deeper way in society. All of that will be helped if we unchain eros and take full advantage of it for healing, self-development, and spiritual growth. For psychoanalysis especially, I think once we unchain that eros, and by that one would mean the conceptual development and application in therapy of the entire zone of eros and not limiting it to one sector of that zone, that would help in development of psychoanalysis, in development of our healing technique, and also for the well-being of our patients.
Thank you, Himanshuji. And today we have discussed the subject of eros and change in psychoanalysis. In our next upcoming videos, please, you'll find we'll discuss the topics in psychoanalysis. Do write to us at hvindia@gmail.com. Namaste.